Welcome to KBI's Play Your Song Academy. Today we'll be talking about how to take care of your clarinet. What we'll be learning about is the parts of the clarinet, what not to do, how to put your instrument together, all about reeds, playing posture, how to clean out your instrument after you're done playing, safety, and all the cool accessories that you can get for your clarinet. First, let's talk about the parts of the clarinet and the bass clarinet. The clarinet and bass clarinet are very similar, and you may notice that your bass clarinet has similar parts to the clarinet that I'm going to go over now. We'll also show a bass clarinet at the end so you can see what that looks like too. The first part of your clarinet I want to talk about is the mouthpiece. It can look like this. On top of it is a cap. This cap is kind of like Darth Vader's hat that sits on top of your mouthpiece while you're not playing it to keep it safe. The next part is the ligature. Ligature is kind of a funny word, and what it does is it holds your reed on your mouthpiece. This one is leather and has one screw. The one I have over here is actually holding a reed on. This is this part, it's kind of a piece of wood, and it holds held on by the ligature here. And this one is silver, it has two screws on it. The last part is the mouthpiece itself. Looks like this. At the bottom, it has a cork. This cork is what seals the mouthpiece to the next part we're going to talk about. The next piece is called the barrel. As you can tell, they look a little bit like barrels. If you have two, you might be wondering, what in the world would I do with two of them? You can only put one on your instrument at a time. They are actually different sizes. If you line them up and look really close, you might be able to tell a difference. One should be a little longer than the other one. You can ask your band director or clarinet teacher which one you should use. The next part I want to talk about is the bell. Looks like this, kind of like a bell, right? It's at the bottom of your instrument, and it is where your air and sound can come out. The next two pieces are the most important pieces because they're the ones that let you change notes. This part is called the chop joint or the upper joint or tube. You can tell that this one's the top because it has two corks on it, one at the top, one at the bottom of it. It only has two rings on the front, but it has a ring and a really long key on the back. All of these buttons that you push down are called keys. And inside of the keys, some of them have pads. The pads and your fingers together seal the holes on your instrument to create different notes. The last piece of our clarinet is called the lower joint or bottom joint or tube, and it only has one cork on it. It's also a little bit bigger around, has three rings on the front, and then on the back has this little guy that's called a thumb rest because you rest the instrument on your thumb when you play. There's also, usually near the thumb rest, some numbers. Those numbers are unique to your instrument, and they're called your serial number, so you know which one clarinet is yours. All right, so that is the parts of your clarinet. Now the bass clarinet, like we said, is very similar, but really big looking. It also has a bell, a bottom joint, which usually ends, is your thumb rest, which usually ends about where the silver band is. The top joint, where it has the little circle and long key on the back. And it also has some parts that are not similar to the clarinet. It has this guy, which is called the neck. Very fancy. So you have a neck instead of a barrel. And you also have a part on the bottom that's called the peg. The peg actually comes off of your instrument, and it is used to rest your instrument on the ground to make sure that it will be the right height for you. It's kind of cool that it's adjustable. Some bass clarinets are not two parts right here. Some of them are one. You should know by the size case you have. Now that you know all the parts of your clarinet and bass clarinet, let's learn about some things we are not supposed to do. Never, ever, ever put anything but cork grease on your corks. Cork grease helps your instrument go together easier. If you start putting other weird things on it, it might get all gunky and then your instrument won't be able to go together and play. Also, remember never to mess with the screws on your instrument. There are quite a few on the clarinet, and if you start twisting them this way or another way, the keys could fall off. Or the adjustment will get messed up and you won't be able to play notes, and then you'll be really sad. Also, when you're putting your instrument together, which we'll talk about in a minute, never grab the keys forcefully. You'll see in this video that she is grabbing those keys. If you start grabbing things, the keys might bend because they're actually very fragile. And if you bend all your keys, your instrument won't play. Another thing to know is never get your clarinet wet. If it gets wet, then the pads could break. And if the pads break, you can't seal those holes on your instrument and make different noises. And you'd be really sad. So let's talk about the right way to put your instrument together. The first thing you'll need when putting your clarinet together is cork grease. Cork grease looks like this. It comes in a little tube like chapstick, but I wouldn't suggest using it like chapstick because that could be pretty gross. What you'll need to do is take the top off and put grease on all of your corks. You should have 4. One on your bottom joint, your top joint, and your mouthpiece. So just put a little bit around each cork and then rub it in with your fingers, like this. That's the bottom joint, and put a little on the top joint. Rub it in like this. This is also true of the bass clarinet. You'd put it on your neck, on your top joint, and your bottom joint as well. And lastly, on your mouthpiece. Be very careful when you're putting grease on your mouthpiece because you do not want to get any grease on the plastic part of your mouthpiece. If you get grease on this part and then try to put your ligature and reed on, it won't be able to hold. It'll just move all around and you won't be able to play. We'll talk more about how to put the reed on later. Now that you're all greased up, you're going to want to wipe that grease off of your fingers. So if you have a cloth of some sort, you should use that instead of your pants or your t-shirt, because I don't think your mom would appreciate that very much. So the first thing I like to do is put my bell on. So when you're holding your bottom joint, you don't want to touch any of these beautiful silver keys. So I hold it from the back, kind of like this. Then you can take your bell, doesn't have any keys on it, so you don't have to worry about that, and twist it on. The bell doesn't have any keys, so it doesn't need to align with anything special. Next, when you put your top joint on, this one you do have to touch a key. You'll want to touch this second ring down near the bottom. The reason is because the top joint and the bottom joint have a key that overlap. It's called the bridge key. On the bottom joint, it's located right here. On the top joint, you might be able to see it move. Woo! It's behind all those keys there. It's hard. So right there. Now if we hold that circle down, you can hold it down with your thumb and put your fingers on the back so you're not touching any other keys. And then you can twist your top and bottom joint together so the keys, the overlapping keys, don't hit each other when you put them together, like this. See? Now if you hit those keys together too many times, you might rip the cork off, and then you'll have a clanky clarinet, or your instrument might not function properly. Now that we got those pieces together, let's sit that down. We're going to put our mouthpiece onto our barrel. Twist that on, just like you did everything else. And now you can put your reed and your ligature on. I lost mine. Again. Reed and ligature, but you might have a metal ligature or a leather one. Doesn't matter which one right now. Then, since it's already on my barrel, I don't have to worry about touching this while I put the instrument together. And they twist together like that. Now the place you line it up is the reed, or the hole in your mouthpiece, should line straight up with this long key and your thumb hole on the back of your clarinet. And that is how you put your clarinet together. Now if you have a bass clarinet, it works very similarly. It has the bridge key. Some of them might even have two, depending on how your instrument is put together. So you have to be very careful in here, making sure those keys don't hit. On the bass clarinet, they're very likely to bend, and then you won't be able to play at all, and you'll be very frustrated. Another key that has to line up on bass clarinet is the neck key right here. You can see that they're separate if we turn it a little bit. Here's your little key here, and it needs to line up with this post, kind of like on a saxophone. So I like to line up where my mouthpiece goes with this very long thumb key and thumb button. Now you might have a teacher that tells you something differently so that you can sit with very good posture. So go with what they say. Another part that needs to line up is your bell. So I always like to make sure that my bell is lined up with all of these keys in the front of your bass clarinet. That way, your bell key will hit its little buddy right here in the right spot so that it functions correctly. Another part of the bass clarinet is the peg. The peg is what holds your instrument up while you're playing. The way you put it in your instrument is there's a little tube, usually somewhere located on your bell, sometimes might be on the bottom of your bottom joint. You take the peg and you slide it into that hole. And then with this screw right here called the peg screw, mine happens to look like Mickey Mouse, you tighten it so that the peg does not move. Then test it and make sure that when it rests on the floor and you're sitting, that your mouthpiece goes directly into your mouth. If it's too low, then you have to go like this, or if it's too high and you can't reach it, then you'll need to adjust your peg to a different height so that it rests correctly while you play. Now that we know how to put our instruments together, let's go visit my friend Haley in the reed room.
Welcome to the reed room, and I'm Haley. We're going to be talking today about what are reeds. So, a reed is made out of cane, and it's made from a plant. Check the link in the video description below to see more about them. So, a reed vibrates to create sound, and reeds come in various sizes. They also come in different packaging and different brands, but I'm going to be showing you, for instance, Vandoren. So this is a bass clarinet, and this is clarinet. Bass clarinet and clarinet reeds are very similar, so all the information in this video will go towards either instrument. So, for instance, your band director will probably tell you to, when you begin, to start with a reed size of 2 or 2.5. Now, depending on what size they tell you, you need to look when you buy your reeds for exactly what instrument you have and exactly what size it says. So this one says 2.5 bass clarinet. So if you're looking for 2s that are for clarinet, you're going to know this isn't correct. And this is correct. But if you're looking for a 2.5 bass clarinet reed, then this is the package for you. Next, we're going to talk about when you take out a new reed. So we're going to take out a new reed, and the first thing you're going to do is open the packaging and throw the plastic away. Next, you're going to open your reed. Now, this might look like a reed case that you want to keep, but you don't want to keep that. You want to throw that away. So it won't make your reed any better, and it will warp your reeds if you keep them in there. And I will show you a picture of a warped reed coming up soon. So this is your clarinet reed, and it's very thin and very, very fragile. When they come out of the package, they're usually very, very good, and they're going to play for you well, and they're very clean cut, and they look like this. Now, if you chip your reed or it looks warped, it's not going to play very well. So why does that happen? Because reeds are very, very fragile. Now, I'll show you some examples of chipped reeds. So this reed here, as you can see, is chipped. And even the littlest chip cannot be good for you, and it won't play good. So you want to throw it away. The next reed is this one. As you can see, this reed has lost its shape, and it's not going to play for you at all, and you definitely want to throw that reed away. Now, these are other examples of reeds that are chipped, and we just want to throw them all away. Now, this reed, it might look good, and you might be wondering, why is my instrument not playing correctly? Well, it's because you have a chip in your reed that you cannot see. So now that you're on the side, you say, it looks a little thicker. But now you can see that it's pulling apart and it has a chip right in the middle. It has a crack in it. That's called a crack. So sometimes that can happen over time, or it can happen when somebody bumps into your instrument and you don't even notice. So this reed isn't going to work, and you're going to want to throw that away too. This reed is a warped reed. Now, you probably can't see it in the video, but it's very wavy. And that's because you kept it in your case and you didn't put it in your reed guard. Reed guard. This is a reed guard. It's very, very important to keep your reeds inside your reed guard. If you don't, it can become warped like this, because when you play your instrument, you're going to wet your reed, and the wetness of the reed will make it warped, and that's how it becomes wavy, because it's just sitting in your case. And that's also because your reeds can chip that way, because they're just sitting in your case and they don't have any protection. So you want to throw the warped reed away too. You really, really want to keep your reeds in reed guard. Reed guards are awesome. They come in different colors and shapes, but this one, for instance, has 2 different sides. So you're going to want to put your reed in here when you're done playing. And you can switch out your reeds by putting them, so for instance, let's put one in this side and one in that side. One day, you can play side A, which shows on here. The other day, you can play the reed in side B and switch them out, because then they will last longer. Well, how long do reeds last? Reeds typically last for about 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how good you take care of them. So if you take care of them good and keep them in your reed guard, they can last longer. But if you don't, and you end up chipping your reed, or you keep them in the case with that plastic piece on them, or you just don't take very good care of your reeds, you're one, wasting your parents' money, because your parents pay a lot of money for these reeds, and they're very expensive. And 2, you're just not going to be able to use them anymore. So you're going to want to just throw those reeds in the trash. Now we're going to talk about how to put your reed on and the mouthpiece. So I'm going to show you, for example, we have 2 different ligatures here. You have your awesome leather ligature and you have your other awesome metal ligature. So when putting a reed on, you want to first grab your reed by the bottom and hold it at the bottom of your mouthpiece. Because if you hold it by the top, you can chip your reed, and you don't want to do that, because if you chip your reed, then you won't be able to play, which we just talked about. So we're going to slide. Let me show you how to do the leather ligature first, and then I'll show you the metal. So you're going to want to slide your ligature on top. But first you're going to want to loosen your ligature, and you're going to want to put it over top your reed so that you don't chip it. And now you can move your reed around. Now you don't want to put your reed too low or too high, because then it won't play correctly. You want to put it to where you can just see a little sliver of black, and so that it's perfect for you to be able to play, and you'll have the perfect sound. Now once it's all adjusted, you want to tighten your ligature back up and look at where your ligature is placed. Now for the leather one, you're going to want to have the screw on the right side, and the screw goes on the back, for instance. Now for the metal one, I'll show you, the screws go on the front. Now the metal one goes on the same exact way as the leather one does, which you put your reed on, then you slide it on, but except for the screws on the back on the leather, and the metal ligature has the screws on the front. So you just want to tighten your reeds up and tighten your ligature so that your reed is on, and you will be good to go to play. So now that we have our reeds on, we're ready to play and learn about posture.
Welcome to the lesson room. Let's talk about how to sit and play our clarinet. So first thing you want to do is make sure you're sitting up nice and tall, sitting straight on your chair, maybe a little bit towards the edge so that your feet can lay flat on the ground. We cannot play an instrument with our knees crossed. See, my clarinet keeps hitting them, and it's not as good for breathing. Now that both feet are flat on the ground, I can now put my instrument into playing position. To play the clarinet, you'll learn where to put your fingers on all the holes on the instrument and how to hold it correctly, as well as how to set up your mouth from your band director or private clarinet teacher. Since I already know how to do that, what I'm going to do is make sure that I place the side with the reed facing me and bring it to my mouth. If your clarinet's out here, you don't want to come out here and do any of this. It'll look kind of funny if your neck is all like that, or if you're hunched over like this. I'm going to make sure you're nice and tall. Bring the clarinet to you. And then you can play. If you have a music stand, it's really good to set your music stand right in front of you so that you can keep everything straight. Now, if you play bass clarinet, you're going to have to fiddle a little bit with your peg to make sure that your instrument goes right into your mouth where you need it to. So I'll sit a little bit to the side so that you can see. Right now, if I bring my instrument to me, my mouthpiece is actually hitting below my lip. That's not good. I'll end up having to play like this. So, since I want to stay sitting up nice and tall, I'm going to have to pull out my peg a little bit so that my instrument comes up a little bit taller. Now, when I bring my instrument to me, it goes right in my mouth. And so I'll have really good posture and be able to breathe and play nice and loud. Now that you know the right way to sit and play, let's go learn how to clean out our instrument, because I know you're about to go practice. Now that you've played your instrument a whole bunch, it's time to talk about how to clean your instrument. First thing you're going to want to do is take your reed off of your mouthpiece. You should always take your reed off when you're done playing and store it safely in a reed guard. This way, your reed will dry correctly and last much longer. Then, while your instrument is still fully together, you can take a clarinet swab like this that has a weight on the end of it and drop it right through your mouthpiece, and the weight should come out the bottom. Then you pull the swab straight through your instrument and it's all cleaned out. You can do something very similar with your bass clarinet. For your bass clarinet, you'll want to take your bell off. Remember, twist, and be careful about where you grab the keys. And take your neck off. And then you can use your same weighted swab, it's a little bigger for a bass clarinet, and drop it down through your instrument like this. And pull it through. It almost feels like doing a magic trick. Then you can put it away in your case because you have cleaned it out. Then on a bass clarinet, it also has a neck, so we'll want to clean this out because this is where most of the condensation from your playing will be. If you've got a care kit, you might have something like this, a little butterfly type swab. It has a little weight in it too. And it can go through your neck like this. You might have to stick your finger in there to get the weight out. And then you can pull your swab through, and that's all cleaned up. Now, every once in a while, maybe once a month, or if you see that your mouthpiece is really dirty, you might want to clean your mouthpiece out. So like the video shown above, you'll use your little Christmas tree shaped brush, put some Dawn dish soap on it, and use maybe some lukewarm water. You don't want to use hot water on a plastic or rubber mouthpiece because it can make it change colors. So you take this and you just Put it in your mouthpiece and you scrub it out like that so that it stays nice and clean and germ-free. Now that we've cleaned out our instrument, let's go talk about how to put it back in our case and keep our instrument safe. Always keep your instrument stored in the case. When you're done playing, make sure to put each of the pieces back in the spot it goes. The case, as you can see in these pictures, is kind of like a puzzle. Each part of the instrument will only fit in one slot. So make sure that your piece fits snugly where you set it before closing the case. If the case does not close all the way when you put the top down, check and make sure you have everything in the right spot and make sure nothing is sticking up on the sides to keep it from closing. Now, what if you have your instrument out in class and you need to go to the restroom or get up and get a tissue? You're going to want to set down your instrument in a way that is safe. So for the clarinet, it's a little bit long, so if you sat it on a chair and someone were to walk by, they might hit your bell or the end of your instrument and it'll tumble on the floor and could even crack in half and break. So when you get up, make sure to take it apart right in the middle. You can set both pieces down right in the middle of your chair, and that way there's no pieces hanging off for anyone to run into. If you play bass clarinet, that one's a little bit harder to set down in a safe way. My best suggestion would be leave it in the case if you get up and leave at any point. Do not take your instrument and lean it on a chair or on your friend or on a music stand because it will fall over on its own whether or not somebody walks by. But if you have to leave it out in class, again, I would try taking it apart in the middle, maybe even take it all the way apart, sit it on your seat or maybe even under your chair where people probably won't be able to step on it because the chair's in the way. Also, don't forget to put your reed in a reed case or a reed guard when you're done playing. That way it will dry, flat, and stay safe for a long time. If you don't do that, you might end up with a broken or moldy reed like this. Oh, you don't want that on your instrument. So never forget, always take your reed off of your mouthpiece and put it in a reed guard. Now, let's go talk about all the really cool accessories that you can get for your instrument. Okay, so let's talk about all the accessories you can get for your clarinet. Some accessories are things you have to have in order to care for your instrument. Other ones are just extras that you can have around for fun. So first, let's talk about the ones you need to have. A swab. You may already have one, and one day you'll need to replace it. Or if you don't, you can come and get one of these. We have some silk swabs here at KBI that come in multiple different colors, like green, purple, or blue. Another swab you can get is called a pad saver. Pad savers are kind of fuzzy and stripy like this, and they have certain rules you have to follow if you decide to use one of these. You can use it one of two ways. One, you can use it as a swab, like your silk swab, where you pull it through the instrument, get all of the water out, and then leave it outside of the instrument in a pocket or something like that. Or, number two, you can use it as a pad saver like it was intended. You swab out the instrument first, then you place your fuzzy pad saver inside the instrument to collect any extra moisture that might be in the instrument. If you were to use it as a swab and leave it in the instrument without swabbing it first, you're just leaving your instrument wet, and we talked about never ever doing that. So remember, you can use it as a swab or as a pad saver. Another important accessory is one we've talked about quite a bit, is the reed guard. You can get one like this. This one holds 4. Or you can get one that holds 2. Or you can even have something fancy like this. That's a case. And it can hold up to 7 clarinet reeds. Some other accessories you can have are the thumb cushion. Looks kind of like this. It goes over your thumb rest to keep your thumb nice and cushioned while it's holding up the weight of the instrument. Or this is a little mouthpiece cushion. If you put it on your mouthpiece, it'll keep your teeth from hurting. It looks kind of like this when it's on your mouthpiece. Don't forget the cork grease. You always need to have cork grease. Like this. Cork grease keeps your instrument running together smoothly. And also, Don't forget your mouthpiece brush because you're going to want to clean it out every once in a while. Another favorite accessory is the polishing cloth, like this one. You can use something like this to polish up your keys and keep your instrument super shiny. What if you want all of that stuff at once? Well, we have a package deal. It's called a care kit. We have one for every instrument, so there's a different one for clarinet and bass clarinet. Most local music stores will have something like this that'll contain all the things you need in order to care for your instrument. Now, something else you need but does not come in your care kit are reeds. Reeds are super important because if you don't have any, you can't make any sound on your instrument. They come in different packaging, different brands. You'll find one that you like a lot, or you can ask your band director or music teacher what to do or what kind to get. Another really fancy accessory, this one you don't have to have, but it's really fun to have, is a clarinet stand like this one. I'll take it out and show you. This clarinet stand is very compact. It can fit in like your backpack or in a case if you have a pocket on yours, like this. Then you can open it up like that, screw together the pieces, and you can set your instrument on it. Another kind of clarinet stand I have here that I've had my clarinet on, it's like this. This one's pretty sturdy. It's really good if you have maybe a cat or a dog that might brush by your instrument when you leave it out at home. Final accessory is one that many people like to have because you can get it in different colors, maybe your favorite color, or it can match your personality. A case. So clearly purple is my favorite color, so I picked out a purple case. But we also have teal or red, black, maybe even one that's polka dotted. So you can always pick out a case that you like the best. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you learned something about your clarinet, and I'm so excited to hear you play your song. Thanks for watching today. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@kbimusicshop.com or call us at 540-891-7800. Our staff would love to help you out. Also, check out our website. It's www.kbimusicshop.com for a PDF of this video's information and for all your musical needs. Let us help you play your song.